All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking about another Dave in real time for real people just like you and just like me. The Battle of the Daves. Well, I lose to David Lee Roth. Come on. This new look that he's got here, Painter Dave, Farmer Dave maybe. We had Glam Rock Dave. We had Lounge Singer Dave. We've had a lot of different Daves. Of course, a long time ago, we had Dave TV, which I thought was probably the best. In any event, there's David Lee Roth, looking a little weathered. Certainly looks like he just came in from the chicken coop. What's weird about this, okay, and don't get me wrong, I think in media, timing is important. And if you're David Lee Roth and one of your former really good friends, I would hope to think, Eddie Van Halen, passes away. And the one thing you've said so far is, what a long, great trip it's been. And that's kind of all we've heard from Roth. We've had people all over the globe. Obviously, we've had Sammy Hagar and Michael Anthony and Alex Van Halen and Wolfgang Van Halen all kind of pour out their hearts and so forth. So, as somebody who's just kind of chronologically involved here, I'm looking at the timeline of events, and I've done this in the past, and it's gotten me in trouble. Okay, so this interview was recorded earlier this summer, and ends up airing on CBS this morning. The timing of the interview from a marketing perspective or a PR perspective ain't so hot. I understand what they're doing, though. Eddie Van Halen in the news, David Lee Roth, here he is. Maybe he's going to talk about Eddie. Well, back in the summer, I'm pretty sure the gag order was in place because everybody was abiding by the rules. Eddie's friends, Eddie's business associates, Eddie's bandmates were all pretty much tight-lipped about Eddie's situation. So I look at this and I go, okay. So he goes on with CBS this morning, talks about being a social commentator, Japanese art of ink painting, doing what he describes as graphic therapy. The segment, which aired this morning, can now be viewed below. After Eddie's death was announced, and this is just the publication here, Blabbermouth, that is adding this portion in. Okay, basically, Roth tweets out a photo. What a long, great trip it's been. Okay, and that somehow ties into this. Actually, it doesn't. It has nothing to do what Roth is talking about, and then they go on. They talk about what the New York Times and Roth talked about. He's supported for 5 years, but because what I do is physical as well as musical and spiritual, you can't take 5 years off from the ring, but I did, and I do not regret a second of it. He's a bandmate. We had a colleague down, and he's down now for enough time that I don't know that he's going to be coming back out on the road. You want to hear the classics, you're talking to him. Okay, so this is all stuff that's already been published. And then, of course, we have the TMZ article. So there's no real news to piggyback off of this interview, which was taped over the summer and has absolutely nothing to do with Eddie Van Halen's passing. But the network, maybe they should have shelved this interview. Maybe they should have gotten with Roth and said, well, this is going to be insensitive because of the timing, because you're not really talking about Eddie. You're talking about painting and so forth. And it's coming out after Eddie's passing, and people are probably more interested in your take on Eddie Van Halen and what he meant to music and what he meant to you. And even if you're still holding a grudge or still not wanting to talk about Eddie because you guys didn't get along so well, that's okay too, but this makes it look like you don't care about Eddie because you're not talking about Eddie in this interview. And in fact, the publication itself has to inject things that they've already talked about in order to make the article sound like it has something to do with Eddie Van Halen. This is just bizarre to me. And again, it's poor timing. I would have pulled this interview. I would have done this or aired this maybe sometime next year. I mean, it's not really time-sensitive material. It's not like you're announcing a world tour. It's not like you're inventing a new product or something. This is just you talking about what you like to do, more or less. And it might be interesting to your fans. Might be just interesting because when Dave opens his mouth, it's typically very entertaining. But I would have just allowed things to simmer down for a while because people are putting things out, which I kind of agree with, that Eddie Van Halen's passing, it's as big as any rock and roll death since the beginning of rock and roll. Eddie was that important to the industry, and people are still trying to kind of grapple with it. So I don't know if Dave could have said, hey, CBS, don't do this, or this is already in the can and ready to come out, and CBS is thinking, oh, this will generate some viewer interest because people will think it's about Eddie Van Halen, and it isn't. And so that's kind of the problem I have with all of it. I would have just waited. Anyway, that's my video. That's my perspective on it. You don't have to agree. All right, I've done a few videos recently where I've made some statements. I'm not too happy that the last concert Van Halen did includes some very crazy vocals by Dave. And look, I guess we can cut him some slack, right? I'm not saying anything bad about Eddie. I'm just saying, the concert, if it was Sammy or if it was somebody else singing, could have been Gary Cherone, the dude from Van Halen, anybody, and I would have said, yeah, that's a great concert. But, Eddie's playing gets overshadowed by a guy who he just can't sing these songs anymore. In any event, that's it. I'm done. It seems like daily there's more stuff about Van Halen that comes out because people are still going through the grieving process and trying to figure out, how this all happened, how it happened so fast, or how we didn't know about anything, and so forth. It is over, unfortunately, but, again, the music lives on, and I'm sure Dave will eventually sit down and talk to somebody about this in serious detail, but until he does that, we can only think that, hey, Dave, what's taking so long, buddy? All right, I'm done. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Yes, subscriptions are good. Patreon is good if you can do $1 a month. Also, that bell, you're supposed to hit the bell, ring the bell if you want to get notifications on new videos that drop. But again, I thank everybody for sticking with this channel and for subscribing. 2020 has been an interesting year thus far, and it ain't over yet. All right, I'm done, and I'll see you soon.